from the Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. There was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the wedding. When the wine ran short, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, how does your concern affect me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servers, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars there for Jewish ceremonial washings, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told them, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. And he told them, "Draw some out now and take it to the head waiter." So they took it. And when the head waiter tasted the water that had become wine, without knowing where it came from, although the servers who had drawn the water knew, the head waiter called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves good wine first, and then when people have drunk freely, an inferior wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this as the beginning of the signs in Cana in Galilee, and so revealed his glory, and his disciples began to believe. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Last weekend at the 5 p.m. Life Team Mass, there was a visiting Dominican priest by the name of Father Benedict. And he comes here occasionally as a brother in the area. And he spoke about his and I's recent visit to the SEEK 2013 conference. It's a national conference sponsored by Focus. Focus stands for the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. There was an event that lasted 4 days where college kids from all around the country traveled to Orlando, Florida to share and celebrate their Catholic faith. And Focus is an organization that meets college students where they're at. And they're invited to grow in a relationship with Jesus Christ and the Catholic faith. So while I was at the event, I had the opportunity to sit down and share a meal with one of Focus's benefactors, along with another Capuchin brother of mine. And this dinner was at one of the finest restaurants in the resort right there in Orlando, Florida, at Disney World. And believe me, I felt at a place even as a Franciscan. It was a 5-star restaurant. You know, I walked in with sandals and a beard and got a hood on, and everybody kind of turns and looks to see what's coming through the door, and the tablecloths and the napkins were all pristine, the silverware, the glasses, everything. The lighting was beautiful. And so we sat down at the table in the back of the restaurant, and it was time for us to order our meal. And this benefactor from Focus asked me and my brother what we wanted to drink. And I kindly responded, a nice glass of Merlot. So he turned to the waiter and asked for a bottle of the nicest Merlot in the restaurant. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My jaw dropped. So it took the waiter a few minutes to run down into the wine cellar, and he came back, and there was a 15-minute presentation for this fine bottle of wine. And all of the serving staff came over and kind of hovering, and everyone in the restaurant that was sitting near us was kind of looking over our shoulders to see what the commotion was about. And boy, did it taste good. Never had that kind of expensive wine before, but by the end of this meal, that benefactor that we shared a meal with wasn't just interested in wining and dining two lowly Franciscans. There was something on his heart that he wanted to show and share with us. He needed prayer in his life, and he needed to reveal his heart to us. His son was struggling with some aspects of his marriage and was deeply troubled by that. He's also a wealthy man and was really deeply concerned about the state of our country and the economic woes that we're all facing, particularly the poor. But the unique aspect of this encounter was that the choicest wine brought out the deepest desires and intentions of his heart. So that put us in a place to respond with care and support. That benefactor brought out the good wine, and it changed the dynamics of our friendship and relationship so that we were on equal footing. But just like that benefactor at Focus, Jesus in today's gospel brings out the choicest of wines to change the nature of our relationship with him. He brings up the best of wine from the cellar of his divinity to wine and dine our humanity. Think about that. Jesus goes into the depths of his divinity to wine and dine humanity. And he's taking us to something new, the next level kind of relationship. But what is he doing? What is he actually doing by bringing out this good wine? So the translation in verse 10 in John's Gospel, which I'm kind of honing in on, says this: "A host always serves the best wine first," he said. "And then whenever everyone has had a lot to drink, he brings out the less expensive wine. But you have kept the best wine until now." Those are the words of the head waiter. He didn't see the miracle performed. But I'd like to reflect on two ways that wine brings us to a new kind of relationship with Jesus. The first, the good wine is symbolic of the Messianic age, a new age in the history of the Jewish people that is about to take place. According to Jewish tradition, the Messianic age would be one of global peace and harmony, a time free of hardship and strife, and one conducive to the deepening of the knowledge and the experience of the Creator. And by bringing out that wine, Jesus wants us to see that he's the long-awaited for Messiah. And even Isaiah, who lived 500 years before Christ, prophesies about that in our first reading. He says this: "For the Lord delights in you and makes your land his spouse. As a young man marries a virgin, your builder shall marry you, and as a bridegroom rejoices in his bride, so shall your God marry you." It's metaphorical language speaking about that spousal relationship between God and his people, and it's no coincidence that the Messiah emerges in public ministry at a wedding. But have you known Christ as the Messiah in your personal life? I know I haven't. It wasn't until I was 22 years old that I was able to accept Christ in my life as the Messiah. I was walking through my young years, feeling that sense of rejection, despair, confusion, and pain, anger, because of my disobedience and lack of reverence for Christ in my life. It wasn't until I was 22 years old at CSU as an engineering student that I began to ask questions in my life like, who is God? Why am I here? Why did he create me? Why did he die on the cross for me and rise from the grave? I didn't have any meaning or purpose. I lacked that peace and harmony in my soul. It was tough. But Jesus, being a humble servant, came into my life and showed me a new kind of relationship through obedience, not just blind obedience out of fear, but obedience through love. Through love. Then came the peace. When I was obedient to him, then came that inner freedom. Today, the Messiah invites us to that kind of peace and harmony in our relationship with him. And let him show you how he wants to change those dynamics in your relationship with him. The second, by bringing out the good wine, Jesus is anticipating sharing the Eucharist with his friends. This moment at the wedding feast of Cana, it's kind of like a spoiler alert for the upper room on Holy Thursday before his passion, death, and resurrection. He's anticipating that moment of communion with his closest friends. And the Eucharist is the way that God has chosen to be present to us until he comes again. My brothers and sisters, Christ is truly present in every Eucharist that we share. But do we acknowledge that? Do we recognize that? Before I knew Jesus in his Eucharistic presence, I would go to Mass. But it was routine for me. I would just go through the motions, and it made me feel better about my guilt. It made me not have to deal with my inner struggles. Essentially, I was going to Mass without knowing personally the Savior, the Messiah. There was no love, there was no conversation. It wasn't personal. But once I tasted his blood and his body for the first time as an engineering student at CSU, that love changed everything. And he invited me to follow him as a friend, as a disciple. And once I tasted the love that I longed for my entire life, that unconditional love that some of you know, I left. Once I experienced the encounter with the risen Lord, the Eucharist changed me. And that was the first time that I had experienced that kind of love. And he showed me that good wine that he brings out for us today. And so Jesus gives us the Eucharist so we can be secure in that kind of friendship, in that kind of love, and that next level of deepening in our relationship. But as most of you know from your marriages, and those times that you first fell in love, love changes you. It changes everything. Friendship changes you. My brothers and sisters, the Eucharist should change you. If it's routine, if it's just walking through the motions, go back to the basics. Go back to that conversation with your friend Jesus. And spend some time talking to him, letting his sacrificial love change you. Today, Jesus brings out the good wine to reveal his heart in a deeper way. He's that eternal benefactor that requires to share his heart and intentions with us, just like that benefactor that winded down my brother and I at Focus. And I understand sometimes it feels that if we respond to God in this way, that he's maybe going to take something from us, or ask us to give something up that we love. And maybe we're not ready for that kind of trust and vulnerability with God. It's difficult. But Pope Benedict XVI comments on the kind of trust that's required for this kind of friendship. He says this: if we let Christ enter fully into our lives, if we open ourselves up totally to him, are we not afraid that he might take something away from us? Are we not perhaps afraid to give something up, something significant, something unique, something that makes our lives so beautiful? Do we not then risk ending up diminished and deprived of our freedom? No. If we let Christ into our lives, we lose nothing, absolutely nothing of what makes life free, beautiful, and great. No. Only in this friendship are the doors of life open wide. Only in this friendship is the great potential of human existence truly revealed. Only in this friendship do we experience beauty and liberation. And so today, with great strength and great conviction, on the basis of long personal experience of life, I say to you, people, do not be afraid of Christ. He takes nothing away, and he gives you everything. When we give ourselves to him, we receive 100-fold in return. Yes, open wide the doors to Christ, and you will find true life. What a passionate man. My brothers and sisters, the good wine has been served to us today. That's what the gospel speaks to us about. So let us listen with our hearts and receive the great gift and delight that Jesus wishes to give, and delight in his presence of the one who is so generous and so kind. Speak to him today throughout this week and thank him for his generosity and love. And may you share a good glass of wine